Now, Samach Hamid Aleph, 3 lines from the top. We learned previously that Rabbi Yochanan said that there's no me'ila by dam, by blood, because the Torah says, The Torah says, Ki nefesh habasar b'dam hi v'ani nasati lachem al mizbeach l'charpa al nafshi sechem ki hadam hu b'nefesh yechaper. It remains in the same category, and therefore, just like after kapara, there's no me'ila. Why is that so? Because ein l'cha dover shenasas mitzvah samo'adam boy. If the mitzvah is done with it, there's no me'ila, so it remains in the same category. Lifnei kapara is the same case. It's the same din. The Gemara asked, is that true? Is that true? We don't say, we always say that something that was the mitzvah was done with it, was performed with it, there's no me'ila. Well, we know by Trumas Hadeshen, even though after the mitzvah of Trumas Hadeshen was performed, nevertheless, the Torah says, the Soma Eitzal Mizbeach, and has to be there, you can't use it. So the Gemara said, yes, that's true, but however, we have another case where that's also the same din, and therefore we apply the principle of Shnei Ksuma Bam Ke'echad Ein Melabdin. What is that other case? That's Big Day Kahuna. The begonim, the clothes that the Kohen go to war on Yom Kippur, then it says V'hinicham Shom, they have to be placed over there, meaning that they cannot be used. It's therefore, even though the mitzvah was done with them, there is still an Isra Me'ila, and we apply the principle of Shnei Ksuma Bam Ke'echad Ein Melabdin. And therefore, it only applies to these 2 cases. But otherwise, we apply the principle that anything, if the mitzvah was already performed with it, there is no more me'ila. Well, that's fine. According to the Rabbanan, say, that says that by the Kohen Gadol's clothing, it says V'nicham Sham, teaches you that it has to be hidden over there, it has to be concealed, and therefore there is still a Isser of Me'ilo. But Rabbi Daisa argues on that. Rabbi Daisa, the Amar, Big Tekuna, Ruin Kohen Hejed, Ma'ikal Meimar, he learns it differently. He says that V'hinicham Sham means not that they have to be concealed over there, not that it's all Surban. It means it just can't be used for a Kohen Gadol for the next Yom Kippur, but it could be worn by a Kohen Hejed. So, Ma'ikal Meimar, what are you going to say? Because you don't see over here that it's Nasas Mitzvasa and that Mo'alim Boy. You don't see that from over here, so therefore, why not learn out from Trumas Hadeshen that even though Nasas Mitzvasa, there is Me'ila, and apply that also to the Dam. And therefore we should say that there is Me'ila, there's Me'ila for the Dam. And how will we apply Rabbi Yochanan's drasha of who to tell me that it's the same category? To teach me that just like before Kapora there is Me'ila, after Kapora there's also Me'ila. That's what it will be teaching me. So my answer is, even according to Rabbi Daisa, I still would say that it's limited. Why is that? Because we have another example of something which is Nasas Mitzvasa and there's Me'ila, and that is Egla Rufa. If there was a dead body lying in the open, we don't know who the killer was. The Zakanim of the nearest town, they have to bring an Egla, bring it down to the valley, and they have to decapitate it, and they say the vidui. And it says over there, the Gabi the Din of Egla Rufa, V'arafu Sham Esa Egla Benach. It says Sham, it has to remain there. Even after the mitzvah of Arifa, even after they perform the mitzvah, it's still there is Isra Hana, there's Me'ila. So therefore, it's Mishum Dahave Trumas Hadeshen V'egla Rufa Shnei Chsum Abayim Ke'echad V'chol Shnei Chsum Abayim Ke'echad Ein Melamdim. And therefore we would limit it to these cases and not apply it to Dam. That's fine if you say, according to the Mandamar, it says, Ein Melamdim, El Mandamar Melamdim, Ma'ika L'meimar. But it says, according to the Mandamar, who says, Melamdim, what can you say? What will you say according to him? Then, according to him, even if there's 2 psukim, you would still apply it to other cases. Taisa says, you could say that we're going according to the Rabbanim of the Rabbi Daisa, and therefore you would have 3, so Shleish Ksuvim B'ayim Ke'achad, and there everyone agrees that Ein Melamdim. You could say that it's going to, according to the Rabbanim, and therefore you would have the the begodim of the Kohen Gadol, you have the Trumas Hadeshin, and you have Egel Arufa. You have 3 psukim. However, we want to apply it even according to Rabbi Daisa, and say even according to him, it's limited to these cases. Why is that? The Gemara answers, Trei miyutik sive, that we have, in addition to the 2 psukim, but we also have 2 miyutim, 2 exclusions to tell us that it only applies here and it doesn't apply elsewhere. The Torah says the some way. So it says by the Trumas Hadeshin, it says v'samai eitzel mizbeach. Now it could have said v'sam. It said v'samai, that you separate it and you place it rather next to the mizbeach. You separate it and place it next to the mizbeach, which is a miyut. Then over here, even though it's nasas mitzvasa, it's also, but it doesn't apply to other cases. And harufa, it says by the case of the egla harufa, it also has a miyut. It says we have ha'arufa. It says the harufa, that the egla arufa, the dafka, the arufa over there, that's where we say it's nasis mitzvasa. The hay is like, so this over here, the arufa, that's where we say that it's nasis mitzvasa. But otherwise, we have a principle that en chador shenasis mitzvasa olam b'ayim. Back to Gemara, well, we have to mention the pasuk by dam, and now the pasuk Gemara asks, "V'hanei tlase kroi b'dam lamali." I have 3 miutim by dam. I have the pasuk of the dam, and where we darshan Rav Yochanan darshan, and when he darshan that we say that it's all in the same category, lifnei kapora lacha kapora. The pasuk says ki nefesh habasar badam hi v'ani nesativ lochem al mizbech l'chaper al nafshei sechem ki hadam hu benefesh yechaper. So we have three psukim. So we have lachem, lachaper, and hu. So what do we need these 3 mi'utim for? For mi'ila, we don't need these 3 mi'utim. What do we have the 3 for? So chad is limute minaiser. One is to teach me a mi'ut of nicer, to teach you that if the dam happens to be nicer, if the dam happens to be left over till the next day, and the person eats the dam, he's chayev for dam, but he's not chayev for nicer. That nicer does not apply to the dam that's left over. And one is from Ila, as we had discussed. That if the person is Tomei, so a person who's Tomei and he eats from the Kachim, normally he would be Chayiv Koros, similarly to nicer. But it's telling us over here that if he's Tomei and he eats the dam, he's Chayiv for dam and not for Tumah. But for pigul, we don't need a pasuk to exclude the dam if the dam was from a korban that was pigul. If the person did the avodah, let's say shecht the animal with an intent to sprinkle the blood beyond the time limit, the korban is pigul. If someone eats the basar of the meat of the korban, he's chayiv kares for pigul. But dam, we would know anyway that there's no kares for pigul. So if he eats the dam from that type of a korban, he's chayiv kares for the dam, but not for pigul. I don't need a pasuk to be reminded. This none, we learned in the Mishnah, kol sheyesh lo matirim, anything that has a matir, a permitter, bein la'adam bein l'mizbeach, whether it's for human consumption, like the basar or the mizbeach, the parts, the emurim that are burnt on the mizbeach, then chayavim alav mishum pigul. A person is chayav for pigul for that. So if he consumes it, he's chayav pigul on that. But that's something which something else is matirit. But that excludes the dam atzmai matir. The dam, nothing else is matir the dam. The dam itself is a matir. The dam is a matir the other things. It's matir the emurim, it's matir the basar. So there's no din pigul on the consumption of dam. So I don't need a pasuk for that. Zok the Mishnah, kol ma'aseh Yom Kippur ma'aramu ha'omer al haseder. Then all the avodas of the Yom Kippur that have a sequence where the Torah says a sequence of it. For instance, where the Kohen does the vidui, he does the vidui on the part. he does the goyrel. He does the goyrel for which is the goyrel the Asor L'Shem L'Azozel. He does the second vidui on the par, Ishachsid, and so forth as he goes through the Seder of the Yom Kippurim. This is a Seder of what has to be done when there's a sequence, Im Hiktem Maisel Chaveroi, if he does one before the other one, Lo Yasa Klum, then the procedure is not valid. Then it's not the whatever he did, if he did it out of order, then it's nullified. So, for example, hikdim dam hasor ledam apar. The dam apar has to be done first. If he did the sprinkling, the hazos of the dam of the sor before the par, then that sprinkling of the soyer is possible. It's invalid. So, therefore, yachzer v'yazim b'dam hasor la'achar dam apar. Then he has to sprinkle it again. He has to do the dam apar and sprinkle again, do the hazor again of the soyer. Now, if he did not complete the matanas bifnim in the Kodesh Kadosh, if before completing it the blood spilled out, then according to this Tana, according to the Tana Kama, he cannot just continue on, bring another par, the dam of another par, and just continue from where he left off. But what he must do is, Yovedam Acher, he has to bring other blood. He has to now shecht another animal, do the Kabbalah, and bring other dam. And he has to start all over from the beginning. He can't just start from where he left off. So it's true not only in Kodesh Kadoshim, but it's true in the Heichal, the Hazos on the Heichal, and also on the Hazos on the Mizbach Hazov. Shekulam kapara b'fnei aswan, because each one of them is a separate kapara, is a separate component. So therefore, all the hazos in the Kodesh Kadoshim, that's one unit. You can't just continue from where you left off. That's one unit. Now that's a separate unit from the heichal. The heichal from the Mizbech Hazov, they're each separate units, but each one is a unit on its own, and it has to be done. It has to be done completely from the dam of one of the animals. So that's what the Tanna Kama holds. However, Rabbi Elazar, Rabbi Shimon Oimrim, they argue and they say, no, Mimakim Shapasek Misham Hu Maschel. He doesn't have to start from the beginning. He just starts from where he left off. He does not have to start from the beginning. Look at the Gemara Tana Rabbanon, Kol Ma'aseh Yom Kippurim, Hamar Ala Seder, all of the Veda Yom Kippurim that are listed in the sequence, and Hiktim Masel Chaveroi Lo Yasa Klum. If he did it out of order, it's not valid. Amar Rabbi Yehuda says, the Gvursari says that this is not an argument, he's explaining it. He says, Amos, when does this apply? But big day lovan b'bifnim. That applies with things that are done, but big day lovan, but the big day couldn't big day lovan, b'bifnim. Rashi says, b'bifnim means in the Kodesh HaKadosh. That's what it means. Aval dvarim enasim big day lovan b'chutz, but things that are done outside the Kodesh Kadoshim, you make the Masel Chaveroi. Mashal, also there, the order is not crucial, it's not critical, and if you did it out of order, then it's still kosher. That's the shita of Rashi. The Rambam argues, and he says Mibifnim means not only the Kodesh Kadoshim, means also the Heichal. The Chutz means outside the Heichal. That's what it means by Chutz. Rabbi Nechemia says, where is it said that the order is critical? When is that? Where is that said? Whether inside or outside, it doesn't matter. It would be the same thing. It would apply whether it's inside or whether it's outside, we would apply the same thing. What was done in big days, then Masha also. So, but he says that things that are done by big day lovan, that if it's done b'chutz, then we say it. The order, he says that it doesn't matter because it was done b'chutz, so the order doesn't matter over there. So, what is something that's done by big day lovan b'chutz? So Rashi explains the agrola, the goyrel, vidui, ushvichas shiroim. Those are things that, and all the things that are, those are things that are done by big day lovan b'chutz. So that's what Rabbi Nechemia says. He argues on that.